Southeastern Australia endured another scorching day today, with temperatures in the 40s across South Australia, Victoria and southern New South Wales. And there's no relief forecast until the weekend, when temperatures are tipped to drop back into the relatively mild 30s, by which stage Adelaide may well have broken a 100-year heatwave record. Federal Climate Change Minister Penny Wong says the heatwave is consistent with global warming predictions. Bad news for those sweating through the week. None more so than hundreds of thousands of Victorian commuters left stranded as train tracks buckled and air conditioners failed, forcing the cancellation of more than 500 rail services in just 2 days. Tracy Hutchison reports.
It's been a week in which southeastern Australia sweltered. Successive days of scorching temperatures in South Australia and Victoria, causing widespread power outages and putting emergency services on bushfire alert.
What exactly is going on with the defending champion? Oh, stand by. I think that's game, set, match. Yeah, that is ball game. Djokovic is conceding the match.
And in Melbourne, where the Australian Open has been another casualty, it's created a summer of discontent for train commuters, as the city's rail system quite literally wilted in the extreme heat.
They can't run if the air conditioning fails on them because you can't open the doors or the windows.
Just missed a train, but it looked like that one had been delayed by about 10-15 minutes. And now, I don't know. I don't know when my train's going to come.
A bit chaotic. They don't even know what they're talking about. We got on one train, then we had to get off again, so it's all very confusing.
Well, it's the worst time of the year to have disruptions to the rail system.
Train on platform 2 will not be taking passengers.
It's the worst possible thing to inflict on the travelling public.
Not for the first time this summer, Melbourne's rail system has brought the city to a standstill. Today, as temperatures soared above 40 degrees for the second day running, the trains simply stopped.
There have been, as of 8:25 this morning, 37 train cancellations.
What you do if you have a well-run rail system is, well in advance of summer, you go in and inspect all the things that might fail in hot weather, like your air conditioning, you replace all the broken parts, you clean things up so that your system's completely reliable. They do this in every other city in the country, even in Adelaide, which is hotter than Melbourne.
Over the past 2 days alone, close to 500 trains have been cancelled throughout Melbourne's 15 city lines, a problem the private operator, Connex, and the Minister have repeatedly shifted to the city's favourite culprit, the weather.
We're getting day on day on day of extreme heat. It actually makes it harder to get the trains back into the system the following day in time, ready for another day of heat.
The heat is having a massive effect on this network. It is causing problems, whether it's air conditioning, buckled rails, speed restrictions because of the heat.
It's not as though summers have only been hot in Melbourne in the last year or two. This has been the case for over a century.
Public transport expert Paul Mees says Melbourne's buckling rail system is the result of one thing.
Privatisation is the culprit. We're becoming the international benchmark for failed privatisation of urban public transport systems.
Mees cites a recent OECD report on urban transport franchises that singled out Melbourne for a dishonourable mention.
Of all the cities discussed in that, Melbourne is clearly the city where things have failed the most blatantly.
I don't think it's actually about who operates the system at the moment. It's about how we actually get both the responses in terms of maintenance and some of the issues of extreme heat.
On Melbourne radio this morning, the public-private tag team continued.
I've always said that the buck stops with me, that as Minister for Public Transport and the government, we are responsible finally for the public transport system.
As the operator, I very much take the overall responsibility for the operation of this network.
But Connex CEO Jonathan Metcalf wasn't prepared to take responsibility for its problems.
It's the drivers' component of the trade unit. Over a number of the recent days when we've had high levels of cancellations, up to 80% on many of those days, needn't have happened. And they're cancellations that we believe could have been avoided and trains kept in service for the rest of that shift, and then the issues dealt with overnight or during the middle of the day.
While Connex was at pains to show off a number of trains the company claimed were service ready, but apparently not union approved, the drivers' division of the Train, Tram and Bus Union, who wouldn't speak to us on camera today, firmly rejected they were to blame.
What we've seen over the last few weeks has been different political parties blaming each other. We've seen the operator being blamed. We've seen even drivers being blamed for taking trains out of service. These are all structural problems with the fact that there has been a lack of investment to run in these temperatures. It's hundreds of millions of dollars we're talking about to get it to work in heat. And is it worth to make that investment for just a few days a year?
Well, it's 43 degrees in Melbourne right now, and if you were trying to get out of the heat, this is the last place you'd be here on Flinders Street Station. At last count, Connex had cancelled 250 trains. And for the people on this platform, they don't care whose fault it is, they just want it fixed.
It's just ridiculous the way they stuff up trains. I've been waiting here for about an hour and a half, and I still don't have an update as to what's happening.
You want to just get home, and it's now 6 o'clock, and I have no idea what time I'm going to get home.
Disgrace, an absolute disgrace. Customer service has been deplorable. No announcements till the latter part. We've been standing there for over an hour and a half. Nothing at all. Absolutely deplorable.
In Melbourne, everyone's in charge of making the trains run, and therefore no one's in charge of making the trains run, and things that are nobody's responsibility don't end up happening.
But with climate change impacting heavily on a system apparently not designed to cope in extreme heat, it's either invest in an upgrade or put up with it.
Historically, the average highest temperature has rarely been more than 1 day a year above about 40. Now, of course, that is also changing because of global warming. So there's another reason why we maybe should be thinking about making this investment.